I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
Welcome to the Red Pill Roundtable with Scorpio. Try with a little help. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Steve Crawford. This is the Red Pill Roundtable. It's 12:04, September 9th, 2020. It is a beautiful day where I am. Overcast. There is not too much heat. There's a reason I'm bringing up the days, and we'll move on one by one to everybody who's on the call. First of all, with my partner Dave. Scorpio, how's it going where you're at today, brother?
Another beautiful day down here. Everything is A-OK.
Fantastic. Okay, and now why I'd mentioned that, we're going to go right to Mr. Rho. Mr. Rho, how is your day going today?
I woke up at Blade Runner 2049 outside. It is currently 9 a.m. here. There should be sun. My lights are off in my house, and it is like midnight. And when I look outside my window, it looks like it's about 9 p.m., except everything is orange. It is extremely orange. I've never seen it like this. The entire Bay Area, from what I hear, you can go on Twitter to see what I'm talking about. Put in Bay Area sky, and those pictures that you see don't do it justice. Wow. I literally can't see in my house. It's so dark if I don't have the lights on. It's not too smoky, but it's just there is no sun. It's really creepy. Go ahead.
Wow. Okay, and we are also joined by Mr. Dan Willis. How are you doing today, my brother?
Hey, Stephen. We are, places around us are on fire around here, but so far the winds are pushing it the other way, and so far so good.
So you've got fires up by your part of the coast as well?
Yeah, it's burned down one of the cities over in the Rogue Valley area, which we're pretty close to. The insane winds are not helping.
Exactly, that's the biggest problem when it comes to them. Laura Eisenhower, how are you doing this morning, sunshine?
I'm doing well, thank you. Good to be here.
And what's your weather like?
Our weather, it's sort of dropped in temperature, so yeah, we had a lot of warm weather, really hot weather, and I'm here in Montana, now it's cooling off.
So there's no fires there?
No fires.
Fantastic news.
Yeah, I hope everybody's hanging in there.
Yes. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Jordan Maxwell. I've been trying to get this gentleman on my show for about 8 years now. Jordan, how are things in your neck of the woods?
Well, it's pretty nice. I'm in northern Arizona. Okay. And because I'm in northern Arizona, it's not too hot here. It's very nice today. So we'll see what happens later on. But looks like it's nice now for the moment.
That's great. And for those listening, if you want to check out more about Jordan, you go to the jordanmaxwellshow.com to check out his site. Any other site, it's not Jordan. He was ripped off. So you go to jordanmaxwellshow.com. And let's just get started. Anybody? Let's go with Dave first. Dave, I know you've probably got a question for Jordan.
Well, I would just like to thank Jordan for coming on the show. I'm sure Jordan doesn't remember this, but I actually met you, Jordan, about 20 years ago at Controversial Bookstore in San Diego. We just happened to strike up a conversation shortly after 9/11.
Well, I don't recall that. That's been a long time ago, I guess.
Yeah.
How long was it? How long was it ago?
Good to talk to you again.
Well, you have to appreciate I'm 80 years old right now, and I can't remember yesterday, so but that would explain it.
I'm 50, and I lose thoughts as they're forming, my friend.
Yeah.
So, yeah, could totally relate. And Laura, would you like to say hi to Jordan? And do you have a question for him?
Oh, yes. I'm so grateful to be here with you, Jordan. It's been such a long time since I've seen you, and just you're always in my heart and in my thoughts. And I'm really grateful for us all coming together today. And yeah, my question for you, Jordan, is, wow. I remember when we were doing panels together years ago, a lot of us were warning the public about the New World Order agenda and the trajectory that we're going down as a human race. What can you speak about as far as what you're seeing in the world today and where you, see it going? Do you feel there's a way to turn all this around, or, what is your perspective?
Well, I don't think there's a way to turn it around, for one thing. I think it's not going bad. It's already there. We're already pretty well finished, in my opinion. I think that what we're seeing is a political communist takeover of the world around me. Everywhere I look, I hear about social networks. Well, that's socialism. And socialism is what Soviet Union was called, the USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. And so I see today the world is going toward world socialism, or, in other words, world communism. And it's an extraordinary experience I have never believed that I would be alive to see. But now we're seeing it in our face. Our country is being rapidly taking over and being destroyed right in front of our eyes, and we're going along with it.
Do you think Trump has a chance at all?
I think that he is doing the best he can, probably.
Right.
But what he's up against is something really terrible, which is happening, has been coming for a long time and building up until finally it's almost overwhelming. So that now even a Trump is not able to hold back the future, which is coming, and we can see it everywhere. And I think it's a world communist takeover is what I see.
Right. What do you think about the Luciferian angle of it? Because I think a lot of them are going after him so badly, both sides and Hollywood, because he's taken away their candy.
You're right. Lucifer actually is, as far as I'm concerned, is the word for Jesus in the New Testament, because Jesus said, "I am Lucifer" in Revelation 22:16.
Really?
If you go back to the book of Revelation, the last page of the Bible in Revelation, you will see where Jesus said, Jesus, I am the bright morning star. And then when you go to the biblical dictionaries and encyclopedias and look up that particular scripture, it tells you that Lucifer, he said, the bright morning star, that's another term for Lucifer.
Yep.
And he said, I am the bright morning star. Therefore, Jesus himself is saying in the book of Revelation, I am Lucifer. And it's quite a difficult story to understand, but that's the basis of it. I could go into a long discussion about why Jesus is Lucifer, because he brings the light. He said, I am the light of the world. So he brings the light. That's what Lucifer means.
That makes a lot of sense to me, too. Actually, it was a video when I first was made aware of you was it was years ago, but it was a video where you were talking about Jesus and Christianity and how he's the son and the steps of Horus and how all that relates together. Could you get into that a little bit.
Yeah, because we say that Jesus was our risen Savior. Well, that's what Horus does. Horus was the sun god. And so we today call the sun coming up on the horizon. It's Horus rising. And so he is our risen Savior. And so the sun, S-U-N, is actually looked at and understood to be S-O-N because our English language is is based on Germanic language.
Right.
And in Germany, it is the sun that comes up, we call it S-U-N in English, but in German it's spelled S-O-N, not S-U-N. So therefore, the sun can be S-O-N or S-U-N. And so we say Jesus is God's son. He said, I am the light of the world. Well, what else lights our world if it isn't the sun? And of course, we say that the sun is risen. So he's our risen Savior. And of course, Jesus, or the concept of Jesus, is our risen Savior. What else lights the world but our sun? And so this is why there's so much confusion in Christianity. Christianity is basically sun worship, based on Judaism's sun worship. All of Judaism is purely sun worship. And it can be traced back, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam can be traced back if you want to bother to do that. You can find out that all three major religions can be traced back to their parent religion, which was Hinduism. And in ancient India, they worshipped the god sun. They worshipped the sun. And it's really an interesting story about theology and where it all came from. And when we hear people talking about the three basic religions of the world, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, are all talking about that they were Abrahamic religions. Well, Abraham as a man, in fact, never lived. There was no such man named Abraham.
Do tell.
But if you trace back the word Abraham, it goes back to Abram. Abram in the Bible was a man, supposedly, but if you can trace it back to India, because there's a priesthood in Egypt today that is called Brahmins. And you put an A in front of Brahmin, it becomes a Brahmin, or Abraham, or Abraham. And among the Brahmins today in India, there is a sacred river that is based on a goddess. They have a goddess in India called Saraswati. So you have Abraham and Saraswati, which is a river in India. And so we get the Abraham and Sarah from the Abraham and Saraswati. All of this is just generally not understood by the Western world. And this is what I've been trying to do for so many years, is to awaken people to the fascinating world of words and terms and symbols and what they mean and where they come from and how we need to understand better the theologies which we follow. And today, those theologies are falling apart today because they weren't really very sturdy to start with, but now they're falling apart big time quickly.
Okay, I have a question I'd like to ask you, and then I'd like to move it on so somebody else can ask you something. Now, this is a question from me and one of the other hosts, Watchman. Him and I like to take little digs at each other. Now, in his opinion, who do you think is most likely, of the people, of all the players that are known, who do you think is most likely behind a lot of the puppet strings? Would it be the Catholic Church or the Zionist Jews?
I think probably, I think the Catholic Church myself.
Really? Okay, now why would you think that?
Because the Pope is called the Holy Father. And why is he called a Holy Father? Because he speaks for God. He's a Godfather. And that's what scares me, because I know what the Jesuits are doing. I know who the Jesuits are, and I know that the Pope today is a Jesuit. And he is speaking for God, and he's a Holy Father. So he's a Godfather.
Who's the Jesuits?
Say it again?
Who are the Jesuits? How are they separate from the regular Catholics?
They were founded back in the 1500s by Ignatius Loyola, a man that was a real zealot for promoting the Catholic Church and defending the Catholic Church from the age of Enlightenment.
Right.
And so today there are all kinds of reference books in the library. You can go on the web and find books on the Jesuits talking about they were the international terrorist organization. They were to confuse Western civilization and to promote the Roman Catholic Church. And so United States was probably at that time influenced by Jesuits, but also has become an enemy of the Jesuits. Because in the Western world, we talk about the freedom of thought and the freedom of religion and the freedom from religion, if you please. Well, the Jesuits are promoting the worship of the Almighty God of Rome, the Roman Catholic God, which is not Jesus at all. And this is why the Pope wears a fish head.
Right.
It goes back to the worship of the fish god in the Phoenician Canaanite system. It's really an interesting story, but you really can't explain it well without pictures. And that's what I do.
Right.
That's what I prefer doing, is talking about this by showing the pictures so your eyes can see exactly what I'm talking about. Then it begins to make a little more sense.
I'm going to have you on my solo show sometime so we can because I have a different contention when it comes to the Jesuits myself. Mr. Rho, did you have something you'd like to ask Jordan?
Yeah, first I want to say it's nice to hear your voice, be able to talk to you after it's been quite a few years since we have spoken.
Thank you.
I did have a question. Things have been ramping up as far as I'd say the controlling factions trying to, establish more control. We have these lockdowns and everything going on, the quickening, as a lot of people may refer to it. But I wanted your opinion. Do you think that people are also waking up faster? And I see kind of a race between the global enlightenment of the people figuring it out that they've been duped, in so many ways, versus the controllers trying to basically lock everybody down and get everybody under control before they do wake up. Do you think there is a chance that the masses will actually wake up before they get their system locked down?
Well, I have said before that people are waking up. Yeah, but that's what you do when you're in a federal prison. Every morning you wake up, but you might as well go back to sleep because you're not going anywhere. You're already locked up. You're already locked up in prison. So even if you wake up, you're not going anywhere. You just now become aware of your situation better, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Well, the light, I think, is a train coming. I think we are really experiencing the collapse of Western civilization. And keep in mind that this whole virus epidemic thing was promoted by a doctor who himself was a Jesuit. And this is why I think the Jesuits are heavily involved in all that's going on, because they want to destroy the Western world, the Protestant world, in favor of bringing about more world domination by Rome. And that's what America is. It seems to be more dominated by Rome, because in the ancient world, Caesar would go, the reference book said that Caesar each morning would go up on the hill, and we're told that the Roman Empire was guided by, and its center of power, its seat of power was in Rome. It was called Capitoline Hill. Well, that's what we have as a Capitol Hill, the same thing, identical. and that the Capitol Hill was a center for the Roman Empire, is the capital for the United States Corporation. We are not the United States of America. We used to be the United States of America, but today we're not a country called the United States of America. We are a corporation, a company that was incorporated called the United States Corporation. And your birth certificate is a membership in that corporation. And if you go and look on the back of your if you look on the back of your Social Security card, you will see a series of numbers at the bottom. Those numbers at the bottom of the Social Security card on the back represents your flesh and blood body, because your body, your actual body, is a financial security on the New York Stock Exchange. You are worth about $9.6 million on the Stock Exchange of New York. Most people have never heard of such a thing, but it's on my website. I've got all the information there. You can find out how much you are worth. But the government says all humans are worth about 9.6 million, each one. It's really one incredible story when you find out you are not living in the United States of America. You're living in a corporation. If you want to deal with the United States of America that was founded back in 1776, then you have to go to Philadelphia. And there's a phone number I could give you. You can find a phone number for the United States of America government in Philadelphia, not in Washington, D.C. But Washington, D.C. is the home office of a corporation. It's quite an interesting story. And on my website, you will see, if you go to my website, which is jordanmaxwellshow.com, jordanmaxwellshow.com, and if you go there, you will see a research website. Go on that research website and join it, and then go to articles, interesting articles on my Jordan Maxwell research, and you will see the whole story about how we were made into a corporation, how our bodies are security on the stock exchange, where to go and how to find out how much you're worth. And this is why when I hear about the people losing their homes and losing their jobs, I'm thinking, well, you're worth $9 million on the stock exchange. Why don't you just cash in $1 million on the stock exchange and get $1 million and pay your bills off? Because most people never heard of such a thing. They don't even know it exists. But this is the kind of thing I've been doing for many years, is trying to wake people up to the occult or hidden world of magic that we live in. It's everywhere.
Yes, Jordan, briefly earlier you touched upon the coronavirus, and I was wondering where you are on the spectrum of beliefs about corona, about, did it really come from China, and is it a deadly virus like they say?
No, I don't think so. It very well might be a virus, very well might be, but it was produced purposely. Like so many other things that are going on in human society, somebody purposely produced this in order to use it, because there's no way to see with your own eyes who is infected and who isn't. So therefore, we all have to, like a typical communist society, we all have to wear our mask, stay 6 foot away from anybody else, go home, keep your mouth shut, and let your country dissolve itself, and let your whole family and your life and your country be destroyed. And we are what the Soviets call the Russian people. We are also useful idiots. That's what the Russian people were called by the Soviet Union. They called the Russian people useful idiots. Why? Because they needed them. They needed everybody to get together and agree on the world communist system. And so all of Russia was forced into agreeing, And this is what's going on in America. We are all being forced into wearing our mask and believing whatever we're told by Jesuit doctors and by all the governmental heads telling us things which are probably not true at all. And I've heard all kinds of stories from both sides. I am totally convinced that this epidemic that we say we're going through is nothing more than manufactured to keep us frightened and keep us with our mask on, and show that takes away your individuality when you're wearing a mask. I think there's something very serious going on here. Something very, very frightening is happening to our country because our people are quickly doing whatever they're told to do. And it used to be that America was a land of the free and a home of the brave. We're not free or brave. We're nothing but slaves in our system today. And that's why I don't really care much about this epidemic, so-called pandemic, which I call a plandemic. I think it's all part and parcel of a plan.
I think your analogy, about communism with this virus is very accurate. The coronavirus is so deadly, you don't even know you have it. So therefore, we're all suspect. And isn't it interesting that it came from China? So I was wondering what your thoughts are on China, because it seems to me that the deep state has done everything they can to build China up since the very beginning. What are your thoughts on that, Jordan?
Well, if you go back to the 1920s, 1900 to 1920s, when the World Communist Party was taking over the country of Russia, they called the new government that the communists founded, they called it the Soviet Union. And so the Soviet Union was the name for the new Russia. And so that's what we are today. We are the new Soviet Union, because we are a union, just like the United States. But in 1868 to 1870, we were anything in this country but united. There was a civil war had just ended, and we were not united at all. So they just decided that we don't have a United States anymore. After the Civil War, it was decided that we should have a corporation, make the country into a company. And so they today call it the United States Corporation. And as I said, you are an employee of a private organization. So if you're in the military service, you're going to serve not your country. You're going to serve a corporation that is owned and operated by people who do not live in this country. It's an incredible story, but you have to see it with your eyes. You have to see the documents and the pictures to understand the full significance of what I'm saying. It's extraordinary. I gave a lecture about 2 months ago in the state of Nevada and in a place called Laughlin. It's about 60 miles south of Las Vegas in Nevada. And you can see it. So they obviously, the people putting the conference on videotaped all the lectures. Well, somebody took the videotape and put it on the web. I don't know if it's going to stay there very long when the people who own it find out that somebody's putting their video on the web for everybody to watch. But it's called Jordan Maxwell, Order Out of Chaos. Go on the web to YouTube and type in Jordan Maxwell, Order Out of Chaos, and you will see that I am presenting a lecture to a large group of people in Laughlin, and watch that presentation completely through. And then you will understand why I'm saying the things I'm saying, because you will see it with your own eyes. Again, go to jordanmaxwellshow.com and join my research website. And go on the web again, as I said, and go to YouTube and type in Jordan Maxwell, Order Out of Chaos. and watch the presentation.
Okay, that sounds good. Dan, you haven't gotten to speak yet. What do you have for Mr. Jordan Maxwell?
Oh, I just want to say, it's great to join Jordan and my good friend Laura and all you guys. I have so many questions. I feel that
I do too.
Being an ex-ABC newsman, I just took note on, how the mainstream media is basically weaponizing and dividing the public, to some of us becoming useful idiots, as the Soviets used to call. But I believe there's hope. I believe there's 185,000 sealed indictments. The first one came out with Clevin Kleinsmith, and that there is operations that have been put into place to protect our future constitutional republic, and that, these operations, because of the mainstream media has weaponized the public so bad, they had to allow a lot of this that we're seeing visually on the news and everything for the public to see it for themselves in order to, finally take it over. But my questions are going into the Knights of Malta and your incredible background on the Vatican. It's kind of interesting, according to, I'm just catching up on all the history of all this and, researching the Knights of Malta. I noticed that Laura's great-grandfather, Dwight D. Eisenhower, was a Knight of Malta. Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush were Knights of Malta. President Eisenhower didn't go along with the plan, apparently, because they took him out of the loop. And, I'm just curious, what does it, I've been looking back through the MJ-12 documents, going back to the 1950s, where Francis Cardinal Spellman was working with the War Department in case mass sightings or ever occurred. The Catholic Church wanted to have containment on the issue. And that was in the 50s. And then around 2008, the Pope comes out and says, the extraterrestrials are brother, and they're born on another planet, therefore they're free of original sin, and, all this kind of opening up the public to associate the church with being good with the whole thing. And you look back at all the connections with the Nazis, the Vatican, the CIA. What does it take to be a Knight of Malta?
Well, it's a very, very, very tight, secret society of very powerful people. They may not, if you see pictures of them, they don't look like the power that they actually have in control. But they are very, very secret about everything they do. And when you begin to see the actions of the Knights of Malta and find out that what we call today in our country the CIA is an operation of the Knights of Malta. They founded it, they organized it, they directed it, financed it, and control it. And so the CIA is one of the most important organizations that Knights of Malta control today in America. And by doing so, they're controlling America itself.
Yeah, that's true. Alan Dulles was a Knight of Malta, and he was the one that pushed Truman into creating the CIA out of the OSS.
Yep, that's right, out of the OSS. As a matter of fact, I can't remember the name of the bakery that puts out those little round black cookies. What do we call them? I can't remember right now. It's the cookies that comes out, and it's the company that does it is actually owned by the Knights of Malta, and I'm trying to think desperately now, trying to think of the name of that cookie. It's very, very well known all over the world. But anyway, on that cookie you will see the Knights of Malta cross. All on both sides of the cookie is a Knights of Malta cross. It's because the Knights of Malta own the bakery that produces it. And so most people are buying their cookies from this company.
Oreo cookies?
Yeah, Oreo. That's what it was. The Oreo cookie. Now, that's the name of the cookie, but what's the name of the organization or the company that produces it?
Nabisco.
Nabisco. Thank you. Nabisco is owned by the Knights of Malta. It is a corporation that is owned by the Knights of Malta, the Catholic organization that was very heavily involved with the founding of Adolf Hitler and the Second World War and all other kind of things which are going on during that wartime period. And on the Nabisco cookie, you will find the Knights of Malta cross stamped on the cookie. And I saw that many years ago, and I thought about that, but I never got into it until I heard a lecture somebody brought out, and sure enough, it was the Knights of Malta that owned the bakery that was producing that particular cookie. So they're very, very influential in politics and in government, and it's a Catholic organization of a secret society. So
is there a connection with the? You keep hearing this about the Vatican and the Nazis with an extraterrestrial or terrestrial race of reptilian beings that the Nazis were able to achieve great success. Technologically.
I believe that's what I believe. I am totally convinced that is absolutely the case. That the Vatican and high officials on the earth today are actually getting their marching orders from an extraterrestrial race. I do not believe our world is being run by us. We don't have anything to do with it. But somebody who is extraordinarily well informed scientifically and politically are guiding us, and I think those are extraterrestrial life forms, and that's why we're having so much activity with the UFO situation. It's happening right now, and make no mistake about it, this government is very, very legitimately concerned about the UFO that they're not telling you about. They're looking into it in many different areas because they are very concerned, because they know something you don't know. And I am totally sure, as the top Nazi scientist was asked how it was possible for the Nazi scientists to do all the wondrous things they were doing the war. And this Nazi official said, we had help. That was a term that he said. We had help doing our science programs.
That's right. Professor Hermann Oberth, yes.
Yeah.
Do you think it could have been extra-dimensional beings?
Yeah. It could be extra-dimensional because if you go back to the movie that back in the mid-'80s, back in the 1980s, there was a television series called V. And if you go back to V and watch, there was a UFO came here over America, over the U.S., and they were called, and the people in it, and in this UFO, in the movie, the TV show, they were called the Visitors. And the visitors came here to help us, to protect us and take care of us and show us all new technology and how to build our phones and all the wonderful
give us
technology.
Universal health care, yes.
And universal health care and all that other nonsense and crap. But ABC a couple of years ago, about 10 years ago, ABC, instead of NBC, that was NBC's original, was called V. But about 10 years ago, ABC remade that series.
Exactly, yeah.
And it was called V. But in it, they said at the beginning of the program, the text said that the visitors have come from another world. We don't know where they've come from, but they're here to help us. and that they are here to help us and guide us in our evolution and in our destiny as a human race. And that in the movie, the extraterrestrials had a series of booklets, little booklets that they handed out to people of the earth in the movie to tell the people and explain to people what they were going to do with the earth and what they were here to do. Well, the term of the booklet was the same identical term that was used by the Communist Party. It was exceptional stuff. If you see it, and it's in my lecture I did in Laughlin. You can go on the web, again, to Jordan Maxwell, Order Out of Chaos, and watch the whole thing, and you'll see it.
Jordan, one last thought. I'd like to hear Laura's input on all this. There appears to be a deception going on, coming out in New York Times and stuff. We had with the Navy Tic Tac, and we have a whole group that's coming out and saying alien threat, coming out of the Pentagon program and all that stuff, which, we know it wasn't alien, it was U.S. Air Force Secret Space Program. Then you have another group that appears to be looking like, in other words, there's two avenues. One's an alien threat situation. The other one's an alien rescue situation, according to some of the research that Dr. Michael Salla has been doing. And that the Catholic Church is aligning with that. Now, I've been looking at all the different people in the UFO community that have been claiming, there are no predatory extraterrestrials. They're all benevolent. They're all good. And I've noticed all the connections with the Catholic Church with all these people, in my own private research. Yeah. It seems that the Catholic Church wants to remain in power, and that, if they align themselves with a extraterrestrial race that's supposed to come here and rescue and help mankind from whatever they're planning on doing, then this would act as another vehicle for them to remain in power.
To operate through, sure. And if you keep in mind that Caesar, over 2,300 years ago, Caesars of Rome ruled the world from what I said, a Capitoline Hill or Capitol Hill. And how did he rule the empire? It was through a Senate. The Roman Senate was up on the hill. Well, we have those terms today. The Senate, our U.S. Senate, is up on the hill. Well, Caesar wanted nothing more than to control the entire world. The whole earth he wanted under him. After he took over Europe and parts of Asia, and there was no place else left to go, he went into Britannia. And when he moved into Britannia, his base of operation in Britain was a city called York, England. And York, England is where Rome ruled the British Isles. And so we have a New York. And it's called New England State. It's called New York. And in New York, Caesar has finally done what he wanted to do before. He wanted to control the whole world. Well, we have something called the United Nations in New York. And New York is called the Empire State because of the Roman Empire. It's the new Roman Empire with the United Nations, which is Caesar wanted to control the whole world. Now the Vatican finally has absolute control over the whole world in using the United Nations. And supposedly they're supposed to be helping the whole world and people of the world. But the fruitage, look at the fruitage of the United Nations life on the planet. Look at what's going on the earth today. All over the world, there's wars and violence and bloodshed. It's all being promoted by the United Nations. The Jesuits have always wanted to promote chaos and terrorism. And it's really quite an interesting story. And again, I just caution you, if you'd like to see it with your own eyes, go on the web, on the YouTube, and watch my presentation that I did in Laughlin called Jordan Maxwell, Order Out of Chaos.
Thank you for your decades of research and contribution to the awakening of humanity, Jordan. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Where can we go from here?
Well, we are getting...
Laura, why don't you jump in with a question if you have one?
There we go.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're dealing with a lot of dark technologies, harvesting, siphoning of energy, the manipulation of the global grids from thousands of years ago, the final Atlantean cataclysm that led to the control of the stargates and planetary grid network from these groups in order to be able to roll out this artificial timeline, New World Order agenda. I do feel, though, that there's enough, maybe not in view just yet, counteracting forces in the form of grid workers, star seeds, and higher beings that have come here to do more than just wake up humanity, but do important energetic work to clear some of this. And what seems to have happened is so many of these higher type beings, higher as in being activators, not higher as in hierarchy, but more able to activate the human race and awaken what's dormant, since that's the role, but they've been so heavily targeted. But do you feel that is underway? Do you feel that, I mean, it's hard to just feel like the lid is closed and there's no way to...
The reason I say that I don't see any hope is because the people of America are supposedly the cream of the crop. We've got all the best science, the best technology. We're supposedly the cream of the crop, and yet we are as ignorant and ill-informed as any other people on the face of the earth.
I know.
Happily delighted to know that we have something called artificial intelligence. Thank God we have artificial intelligence, because our people are not intelligent. We don't have any intelligence. The intelligence is crafted by secret societies like the CIA and the FBI. Neither one of those organizations are in any way connected to the U.S. government. They were privately owned organizations, the CIA and the FBI. But the United States corporation has invested money in both of those corporations. And the law in America says anything that the government invests in and they control, they own it. And so today we say that the CIA and the FBI are United States organizations. They're not. They're privately owned. But the U.S. corporation that was founded back in 1868 has invested so heavily in the CIA and the FBI that they now pretty much control anything that goes on in those two organizations. It's quite a story when you find out how this world really works and what's really actually happening right now to the American people and to our country. And as far as I'm concerned, it's absolutely unbelievable when you start to see it with your own eyes that we ourselves are agreeing to do whatever we're being told to do. We used to be Americans were thinkers and they would do what they wanted to do, and you couldn't coerce them into doing anything. But that's what's happening today. 90% of the people are causing the whole country to do whatever they're told to do. I mean, you can't go anywhere without a mask. I don't care where you go, you must wear a mask. And so even the people who know this whole thing is a fraud, they have to wear a mask because everybody else does. So I'm saying that we have become the new useful idiots. We just go along with whatever we're told to do and follow the line, the party line, whatever we're said and told to do, we do. And this is why I think, and I say that I don't see any hope for it, because we are a bunch of lemmies. But on the other hand, my gut feeling is that there is a divine presence in the universe that men have called God. And I do believe that divine force in the universe is not going to allow the creation of the human family on the earth to be subjugated into a totalitarian fascist concentration camp lifestyle. I don't really think, quietly in my own mind, I don't really think it's going to work. This new world order, I don't think is actually going to be able to be pulled off, because there is a divine presence in the universe that created us, and I don't think it's going to allow their plan to go through. I hope I'm right.
Yeah. Well, I definitely feel that way. I mean, people talk of bifurcation or some sort of split in the timelines, where the ones that just cannot see the truth or their own divinity or the game being played, might go one way, and those that really do get it and are connected to the organic ascension signals versus the AI signals will experience something different. But I'm not sure what you think of the whole concept of bifurcation.
Yeah, well, I've been looking at this for 60 years. And for 60 years, 6 decades, I have been talking around the world to people about the conspiratorial apparatus that is being looked over and guided by secret societies and subversive orders throughout the world. And if you go back, as I said, I'm repeating myself over again, if you go back to my lecture and watch it yourself on YouTube, Jordan Maxwell, Order Out of Chaos, watch it on YouTube and you will see the implications of what I'm talking about. Because very fortunately, I was able to put everything into that lecture. All the pictures and all the documents and everything is there. It's all overwhelming and obviously in your face if you go back and watch it.
Excellent. I'll be sure to share it. I think I saw it a few years back. Yeah, so it's amazing that with all the information people have put out there and all the disinfo that has tried to muddy the disclosure community and the different plants that were put in place to kind of sabotage people taking all this seriously, I'm surprised more people aren't standing up. I'm surprised at how many are going along with this and are literally defending these dark agendas. But I so appreciate
that's why they gave us back sports briefly too, in its stupid way that they're presenting it to people. But I think that's another reason they gave us back, because they were going to have both sides, Republican and Democrats, that were sports fans, were all going to get sick of it soon. We're very close to the end of the show. Not the end of the show, the end of the segment. I want to let the listeners know we are 100% listener supported. So if you go to revolution.radio or freedomslips.com, you can join in. You can scroll down, become a patron on Patreon. You can click donations, check out through scroll mail, what do they call that now? Snail mail. Or you can go to the store, Zazzle.com, Zazzle.ca, and buy something. We'll be back on the other side of the break, and we'll start it off with Mr. Rho.